Temporal Forces launches on Thursday, March 21st in Pokemon TCG Live, and I'm kicking off my month of coverage with the top 10 best cards. As always with top 10 lists, the ordering is mostly arbitrary, and I totally don't include or leave out certain cards to bait people into posting comments, thus boosting the reach of this video. You can trust me on that one. Plus, I'll be doing a full crafting guide video next highlighting every decent card in the set. I can't show you all the goods right now, I need to save something for later so you keep coming back for more. Anyways, when the first wave of A-Specs were announced, it seemed like a lock that Prime Catcher would be the best, and all the others would pale in comparison, like me standing next to someone with a tan. But then Maximum Belt was revealed. It helps fix so much math, it's insane. Arceus V-Star with a double turbo attached does 180. Slap on a Maximum Belt, now it's at 230, able to one-shot almost every basic EX, including Roaring Moon and Chen Pao. And Charizard EX also benefits from Maximum Belt. If your opponent hasn't taken any prize cards yet, Zard does 180 by itself. I know, with the loss of Path to the Peak in our post-rotation meta, there will likely be an increase of Squawkabilly, Mew, and Lumineon V targets to boss up early for 2 free prizes. But if there isn't, now Charizard can take meaningful KOs as early as turn 2. And what about later in the game? Instead of having to wait for your opponent to take all but one of their prize cards to one-shot a fellow Zard, now you can use Maximum Belt when they've taken 4 prizes and one-shot a Zard. In terms of finding Maximum Belt, Arven gets you an item and a tool, making it perfect for Charizard. On turn 1, you can get a Buddy Buddy Poffin and Technical Machine Evolution. On turn 2, you can get a Rare Candy or Ultra Ball and Maximum Belt. Then, if you want to recover the belt, you can use something like Roseanne's Backup or Silene. Not ideal choices, but they do exist. And don't forget that come March 2025, all V and V-Star and V-Max Pokemon will be out of Standard, making Maximum Belt highly playable for years to come. Of course, Prime Catcher is in the second spot. As a reminder, just like Radiant Pokemon, you can only have one A-Spec in your deck. If it's not Maximum Belt, odds are it's Prime Catcher, unless you're Lugia V-Star, then it's Master Ball. But that's literally the only deck that's going to choose Master Ball over any of the other A-Specs. The effect of Prime Catcher is the same as Guzma and Cross Switcher. You swap in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active while swapping in one of your bench Pokemon to the active. It's insanely powerful and some people will question why it isn't number 1, but I stand by my decision. Finding Prime Catcher is also super easy. You can use Irida or Arven to get it directly out of your deck, while something like Pokestop is less focused, but also an option. In terms of recovery, Darkrai V-Star players can just get it directly out of the discard pile with its V-Star power, while everyone else will have to rely on Silene. We're losing Battle VIP Pass to rotation on March 21st, but its replacement arrives on the same day. Far more balanced than VIP Pass ever was, Buddy Buddy Poffin goes and gets any 2 Pokemon with 70 hit points or less from your deck, and puts them directly onto the bench. Best of all, unlike VIP Pass which only worked on turn 1, this works all freaking game. So while it can't go and get Rotom V or Squawkabilly EX, for Charizard players, the reason I keep mentioning Charizard in this video is because it's by far the most played post-rotation deck in Japan, the choice is simple. You put down a Charmander and Bidoof, then evolve them with TM Evolution. For Evolution decks, it's arguably an improvement over VIP Pass, since you can use Super Rod to shuffle back in any low HP dudes, then get 2 back right away with a Poffin at any point. For parts of this top 10 list, I analyzed Japanese tournament results to see which of the new cards are being played most heavily and which ones are in the top decks. So there may be some things you disagree with. If there are, blame players in Japan, not me. I'm just the handsome messenger. But if you agree with the list, then everything was my idea and I'm a brilliant forecaster of the Pokemon TCG. With that said, we have Mist Energy in 4th place. Attach it to a Pokemon and now it's immune to the effects of attacks. While Mist Energy won't be played as heavily as the first 3 cards, its existence frightens one of the top decks currently in format, Roaring Moon EX. Back in the dark days of right now, Roaring Moon could just use Frenzied Gouging and one-shot anybody it wanted. But if you put a Mist Energy on a Charizard EX or a Lugia V-Star or an Arceus V-Star, all of a sudden it's guaranteed to at least survive 1 turn. Sableye Lost Mine is also stopped by Mist Energy, but since Mist Energy only protects the Pokemon it's attached to, you'll have to employ Cunning and Stealth to use it properly. I really didn't want this video to just be a countdown of all the A-Specs and Temporal Forces, especially since you can only have 1 in your deck, but Hero's Cape is just too good. Perfect for someone like the new Gardevoir EX deck, which is a bit different post-rotation. Hero's Tape gives the Pokemon it's attached to plus 100 hit points. So you can give a Charizard EX 430 HP, perfect for surviving a one-shot from a Pokemon I'll talk about in a second, or a Screamtail 190 hit points without the drawback of giving up an extra prize card like you do with Luxurious Cape. There is a major drawback though. Unlike Maximum Belt and Prime Catcher, which you have complete control over how effective they are, Hero's Tape does rely somewhat on your opponent. Aside from the Gardevoir deck, Hero's Tape is mostly meant to help you survive an attack. That means your opponent has every opportunity to use Lost Vacuum on it, effectively making Hero's Tape a wasted slot in your deck if that happens. But if they don't run Lost Vacuum, or if you attach it at the right time in the duel, Hero's Tape is all but guaranteed to stick and provide a major annoyance. Since I just alluded to it, I may as well talk about it now. There's nothing too crazy about Iron Leaves EX, it just one-shots Charizard EX. If you play Iron Leaves from your hand onto the bench, you can put it directly into the active spot and attach any amount of energy from your other Pokemon to it. A single copy fits perfectly into Arceus Giratina, giving you a way to one-shot a Charizard EX easily. And the other Charizard EX can be one-shot by your Giratina V-Star with a Maximum Belt attached. You can also chuck Iron Leaves into a Lost Box deck for the same reason, and since it's a future Pokemon, you can put it into the Future Box deck to, you guessed it, one-shot a Charizard EX. It also helps with Roaring Moon EX, but Charizard is going to be your biggest target come March 21st. Thanks to Roaring Moon EX, ancient Pokemon have been strutting around like they own the place. But with the launch of Temporal Forces, future Pokemon come back in a huge way, and part of it is due to this guy, Miraidon. For a single energy of any type, you deal 40 damage. Whoop-de-doo. But the secondary effect is awesome. You go and get any two basic energy from your deck, then attach them to your future Pokemon in any way you want. Some might say it's peak acceleration. Used in tandem with the new Reboot Pod A-Spec, you can have a ton of energy in play by the end of turn 1, setting yourself up for the rest of the game. A fun combo that's emerged is loading up an Iron Hand Sex, slapping a Heavy Baton on it, then just looping multiple Iron Hands for a few turns, taking extra prizes with each knockout. But obviously, the attacks of Miraidon and Iron Hands are fairly weak on their own, so how do we fix that? Enter Iron Crown EX. Overjoyed that Path to the Peak is rotating, Iron Crown EX's ability boosts the damage your future Pokemon deal by 20, and it stacks. So now your baby Miraidon can deal up to 120 damage and Iron Hands EX can deal 200 damage with Amp You Very Much. I'm scared by the amount of math I'll have to do in the next format, but the card is still super useful. I originally wasn't going to include Cinccino, but then I realized it's the only reason that Lugia V-Star exists as a strong deck post-rotation. Sure, its versatility pretty much begins and ends with Lugia, but it's a single prizer that can one-shot any Pokemon in the game. For each special energy card attached to Cinccino, it does 70 damage. Put 5 special energy on it, you're dealing 350 damage. Insane numbers for a Pokemon with 110 HP. What you have to be aware of is that it's based on the number of energy cards, not energy. So double turbo energy still only counts as 1. As long as you remember that, and Primal Turbo the right energy in the right places, you'll be able to win a lot of games with Lugia post-rotation. If I told you that Roaring Moon will be a good deck post-rotation, but it's not the EX, would you believe me? The new baby Roaring Moon does 70 base damage plus 10 more for each ancient card in your discard pile. Load up your deck with Professor Sada, Earthen Vessel, Drum of Awakening, and however many ancient Pokemon you can fit, then discard them using things like Earthen Vessel and the new Explorer's Guidance, and all of a sudden you have a single prize deck that can take big one-hit KOs. It just might take a couple of turns. While you're waiting, the new baby Koraidon can do 180 with a full bench of ancient Pokemon for 2 energy, allowing this deck to easily two-shot big Pokemon early. The 9th spot was a toss-up between Roaring Moon and Great Tusk, but I decided to go with the Attacker instead of the Miller because I'm already giving degenerates enough ideas with this next card. How British people say Harry, I saved Airy for last, hoping that Snorlax players have clicked away from this video by now and don't know it exists. But it's not just Snorlax or Stall decks that run Airy, I've also seen it in Arceus Giratina lists. Airy's effect is straightforward. Look at your opponent's hand, then discard 2 item cards. For Snorlax, this allows you to discard any copies of Switch or Switch Cart that they may have been saving. Remember that Escape Rope rotates, so there's 4 fewer item-based Switch cards at their disposal. And for something like Arceus, it allows you to discard any copies of Ultra Ball or Counter Catcher or Rare Candy that they may have planned on using the next turn, potentially stalling them out. I've been fairly vocal about my fear of Snorlax post-rotation, and Airy is a major reason for that. Even if your deck plays 4 Switch and 4 Switch Cart, a highly unlikely occurrence, they can hit 2 of them with Airy and several others with Misfortune Sisters. Plus, they can Hand Trimmer before Airy to force you to discard a bunch of other cards, then get rid of whatever goodness you're hiding in your hand. There were a lot of cards that I could have included in the list, like Cryptomaniac's Deciphering, Emergency Board, Reboot Pod, Explorer's Guidance, Great Test, Fluttermane, and Raging Bolt EX, but I needed to save some things for the crafting guide, so I'll talk more about those very soon. What are your personal top 10 cards in Temporal Forces? Let everyone know in the comments.